Vincenzo's Go Crypto Investing, and the questions that we're all asking, the key questions of financial freedom and becoming an asset millionaire, on how to do it, the Bitcoin price, cryptocurrencies, are they the answer? Are they there to fleece, heist, and shiest in the long run, the retail trader and investor? Gold and silver bullion, oil, the stock market, interest rates, key Federal Reserve stats, and U.S. government policy, the CPI, all will be explained and diagnosed into understanding what's going on. And that's why you're here, to become an asset millionaire. And let's get right on into the Bitcoin price. And you can see the Bitcoin price today is down, and it's down big. And it's something that we've been harping on and been talking about for several weeks now, ever since we topped out about 2 months ago and then made another slight new high about 2 months later, that we're coming off of with this 3.5 year rising channel support and resistance pattern. It's been about 3.5 years. And it broke down from that 126 and change. And it had a forceful move in not only volume, but price. You can see the price went down 15.44% with a massive uptick in volume at a key level that you were breaking down out of and not just trading out of, right? And then we had the little return rally to 112, and we warned you, if you don't stay above the 50 and the 100, which now you're about to have a bearish cross, probably tomorrow in the Bitcoin price. We said that the price, because everybody is ultra bullish, everybody thinks the price of Bitcoin, the price of crypto has to go up, because since COVID 2021 through last year, you have November, December into the holiday New Year rally, and then you have bear market for the late winter and spring, right? And I said, what if the recent pattern, that's the most recent trend that's developed, what if that's not going to continue? It wasn't always the case that Bitcoin routinely pumped in November. That's a more recent trend. And what if, because everybody was buying in, everybody was levered down, and everybody thought that the dump 3.5 Fridays ago, it'll be a month, if you can believe this already, I believe this coming up Friday, when we had that epic 15% Bitcoin dump, 28% Ethereum plunge, and 40 to 75% in a matter of 20 minutes across all the altcoins across the board. Everybody thought that was the liquidation, with the 1.8 million traders wiped out, right? And billions of dollars in liquidity gone, sucked out of the retail hands. And everyone thought that leverage, that's all it needed to go up. What if that was a trap? What if that was the market being smarter than you, the market being smarter than me, and the market being smarter than everybody, and the manipulated facilitators that corrupt this market set that trap, laid the trap, and everybody walked into it by anything they had left to buying on a big dump? They thought that was the dump, and then the price is going to start appreciating. What if, like I've been asking the question, at least Vincenzo's Gold Crypto Investing was willing and brave enough to ask the question, what if the price is bearish in the short term, the next 3 or 4 months, as I still believe mid and late next year there's going to be a blow off top in the altcoins. But what if before that we went down, and went down big, and we had 95,772 as our major short-term pattern direction, and we told you if we came back down to the 200-day moving average at 108,000, we wouldn't hold it, and we're not holding it. We're down, coming down probably to a wick low, and then I believe the 95,000, and then that's when we decide, is this going to be a confirmed breakdown, and start to have some very uncomfortable phone calls and very uncomfortable conversations and questions with these quasi Bitcoin treasury companies that there's over 1,000 of them, and it's not just the US, it's infiltrated around the world, like a MicroStrategies, because everybody knows them, so I use his name because he's the most in it. If the price is down, sitting there at $79,000, and it sits there, and it's not just a wick where it bounces back to 95 a day later, but it's sitting there for a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks at 79. He just bought more Bitcoin. His average price is approaching 79,000. It's north of 72,000 right now. And those artificial on paper profits, in a quick blink of an eye, he could be sitting at even or only up a few percent, and he's going to start having those calls. The phone come in, the phone will ring. The banks will start asking for him to either sell some shares to pay down some margin, or deposit some cash to pay up and get some of that off margin, right? because he's going to be dangerously close to break even if you broke the 95,000, because you would slip down to, straight to 79,000. So this could be very interesting over the next several months if that did actually happen. But I felt it was my need and my obligation to at least bring that up to you over the last several weeks and several months. Same thing with the Ethereum price. We've been talking. You can see it's now obvious we're going to have a bearish cross. This 50 will get below the 100-day moving average. It's just going to happen. We're well below the neckline resistance. We told you if you could not stay above the 4107, you would come back down to the 200-day 3,600 and change, not hold it, and you would end up back at the top part of this support and resistance green box, this major green support and resistance box. And we told y'all, just as we're deleting that, if you did not hold, if you came back down to the 3466, I don't believe you're gonna in the week to come hold it. And I think that's why we have it circled. Maybe we have a date and it's looking more and more plausible, and not only plausible but likely that $3,068 is going to be hit here in the short term in Ethereum. If you don't want that to happen, you obviously have to have the buyers come in and around where you're at now, and then you got to start to take out some of this major overhead resistance, which is the 100-day moving average, the 50-day moving average, and then the overhead neckline resistance, right? Let me put this on do not disturb just in case somebody tries to call at work even though I'm on my lunch. Let me time check. We got plenty of time. We're moving along nicely. The XLM, you can see it did exactly what we were warning about, that if you got rejected and couldn't get above and stay above that 31 cents and or the 50-day moving average in the weekly time frame at 31 cents, you were coming straight down to 25 cents, and that is the 50-day moving average in the weekly time frame. And you can see we showed you what would happen, and we drew that back out when the price was up here before we had that big flush, right? And this is that big wick flush in the altcoins. You can see, and that's something that I also have been warning. Anybody that wants to keep money long-term in these altcoins or even Bitcoin and the major cap coins, there's not a lot of liquidity. Anything that could go down 60% in literally 20 minutes, 60%, that shows you lack of liquidity. That's not something I want to put a large percentage of my assets in, right? Long-term, right? Spots, short-term, see a bear market and buy into the bear market and ride the pump. Yeah, I get that. But long-term, I can't have a vast amount of my net worth in something that can go down 60, 80, 90% in literally the matter of minutes. And it not always will come back because of lack of liquidity. That's more like gambling and in the roulette table than it is steady long-term investing, right? And you can see, I was warning, what if that was the trap? Yes, you got rid of a lot of liquidity and a lot of margin, but everybody went in. Anybody that had stuff on the side, they were putting money in and buying that, right? And now I said, what if it comes down? And now we're coming down. And now we're coming down to the 25 cents. And if you break that 25 cents, you're coming to the 200-day in the weekly time frame in the XLM price. It's just going to happen, right? And I've been warning about this because I'm not hearing a lot of heating from anybody really else around the sphere or the mainstream, obviously, about the potential of a short-term bear market here. And we're definitely in short-term bear market ever since that high. Even we had the mini rally. You can see the blow off top. Then we went down 67%. Then we came back up on the bear market rally. And then from high to high, we were only down about 17%, but now we're back down 54%. And what if we're going to come down to 14 cents? What if we're going down to 18 cents? What if the unthinkable happens and 7 cents happens? And nobody else thought this could happen, even though the whole history of the Bitcoin, the whole history of the altcoins especially, is they pump and then they dump. Look at, just in this chart, I'm not sure when XLM came out, bear market, new high, bear market, pump, bear market, return rally. You don't think there's going to be a bear market, right? That's what they do. So that's something that we're watching out for. If we go into the XRP, it's the same thing, right? XRP has had a whole history of this, and the price goes much farther back than this. But I got this chart. Where is this starting at? 2017, you had that long consolidation, and then the second real rally, because there was one here in 2013 or 14, but nobody had them. You had the massive pump and then a huge, long, debilitating bear market that lasted essentially to break that, it took, 6 years. And nobody's seen that coming. Then you had the big pump in 2021 with the COVID, another massive bear market. Now you're having the big pump here with the Donald Trump. I can't believe it's already been a year. And then now you're here. You don't think there's going to be another bear market? I think, and that's why I've had down here the 68 cents, a critical support and resistance zone that's been down there ever since before the Donald Trump rally. That was the major player in the XRP price from 2022 all the way until November of 2024 on the night of election of Donald Trump, right? So what if these are going to come back down and we might have a sub, because we did wick down to $1. What if we're going to have a sub $1 XRP again? Nobody's ready for that. Everybody just thinks it's going up, even though the whole history of crypto after a massive bull market says there has to be a pretty significant sell-off, right? So I'm not saying it's got to happen, but some of the things that we've been talking and theorizing here on this channel are starting to materialize. So we're going to continue to watch this in the XRP. If you don't want that to happen in the XRP, you got to stay on the 250 or the 233 50-day and the weekly there, and then try to fight and get back above the 255. Right now, you're just above the weekly time frame support at the 50 and red right there. But if you fail to hold that, you're coming in a big move to the downside. And I can only warn so much. I can only do so much. My voice only travels so far, right? It's up to you to it's up to you to hear it, listen, and absorb what I'm saying. I'm not a financial advisor. I would never tell you to buy or sell anything. I'm just telling you my own personal opinions and what I am actually doing to become an asset millionaire. But that is a 23.57% fall down to $1.78, otherwise known as the 100-day moving average in the weekly time frame, right? So that's what we're looking at there in the XRP price in the short and medium term. If you don't want to go down there and potentially down to the $1.28, which is the 200-day moving average in the weekly, you have to stay on top of that 50-day and then work your way and try to fight over all these overhead moving averages. And you can see you had a bearish cross where the 50, got below the blue, the 100-day. So that's a bearish cross, and it's knifing because it's the 50. The short-term moving average will always move down quicker on a dump and always move up first on a pump, followed by the 100-day and then the 200-day, right? And you can see it's going to have a golden bearish cross where not only does it knife through the 100, but it gets below the 200 here. And I'm going to make a forecast that by the end of this week, you're going to have that bearish cross. So you have to fight over not only the 255 short-term resistance, but then the 200, the 50, and the 100-day moving average in the daily time frame, right? So that's a lot of work to try to do to get bearish or bullish again and not be so bearish. But right now you got to stay above this critical area, and you can see you're slightly above it at 242. You're about 11 cents above it. But if you slip it, you're going to dump, and you're going to dump hard, and you're going to dump quick, and you're going to dump fast, right? I'm just giving you that warning right now. I can only do so much. You can see the DGB. I had a comment from my lovely Jabroni Killer member. Yes, it went up 50% yesterday, but that was bouncing off a technical level, which was essentially near the all-time low. And you can see it's bounced off that several times over the last 3 years. It bounced straight up into major overhead resistance, which is the moving averages. You can see where you have the 50 in the daily, the 100, and then the 200 right here. And it wicked up yesterday, and then today it had another wick into there, right to that overhead in yellow, 0.00838, and got rejected by it. Now it's given about 50% of that back. I would expect it probably, unless the overall market changes or the volume continues to pump, that this would probably trade back down, and this was just a fake pump to the upside briefly. But anybody that had it at 0.05, if they just so happened to get lucky there and made some money there, congratulations. But we're going to have to see. What I would like to see is the volume in the daily to come in the next couple of days and continue to increase in volume and get more and more and greater to kind of have some kind of sustained pump and a turnaround in the overall market. But that's good. It's showing signs of life. But I wouldn't be surprised to see it trade back down, closer to this 0.00655 here in the next day and a half, unless the buy volume just continues to overwhelm the price action, right? If we look at something else, then I'm gonna have to let you go. The power of compounding your millionaire tool, right? This is a secret, not a secret, but something that millionaires and people trying to become millionaires do. You compound your wealth. Compounding is how money makes money while you sleep. It's not about timing the market. It's about time in the market. And you can not only compound your money in the market, you can do it with interest too. If you're getting 4% interest a year and you have 100 grand and you keep it in there for 10 years, it's not, you're going to have compounding. It's going to be a astronomically more than if you didn't get the compounding and you kept taking the interest that you got every year out and started with the same thing over and over. If you invested $500 a month, about $16 a day in an index fund, earning an average of 10% per year, after 10 years, it's $95,000. After 20 years, it's $343,000. After 30 years, it's $985,000. After 35, it's $1.6 million at only $500. Yes, and that's incorporating bear markets, right? And I've been doing that for 5 years, and I can tell you at $300 a week, that is true, right? Especially when your stuff's appreciating and appreciating pretty good. The power of compounding growth, your return starts earning their own return. The secret: start early, be consistent, and that's something we preach. Reinvest every dollar. Becoming an asset millionaire isn't about luck. It's about discipline, patience, and letting compounding do the heavy lifting, right? And that's what we always preach here. Steady investing into 401k, steady investing, real estate, gold and silver bullion and mining stocks, cryptocurrencies if you're into it, cash on the side earning an interest of a minimum 3 to 5%, right? We preach these things, and that's how you become wealthy. And no debt, very important. You stay out of debt. That way you can invest the money that you would be paying on a $600, $900, $1,000 car payment for 6 years for a car that's $58,000 or $60,000. You could be using that money without that car payment to invest, because that car that you buy for 60 grand in 5 years when you pay it off is only going to be worth 20. Why would you do that? You're taking a $40,000 out the window, burning it. You might as well burn it, roll around and bask in it like Scrooge McDuck as you're burning it. At least you do something with it. You buy a $10,000 car or a $15,000 car if you have the cash that you can afford, and you take the money you were going to spend on a car payment for 5 years and you just invest it in an index fund or have them put it in your 401k. Max that out, right? And you'd be surprised how your standard of living changes. But that's some of the things that we preach here. But one of the reasons that I was a little shy yesterday is our weather page. It's the wintertime season, and we're really taking off here at Michigan Snow Forecast Gold Standard. We have Gold Standard advertising that we do. If you're a viewer in the great state of Michigan and you want to target a specific audience, and you're a plumber, a snow removal contractor, landscaper, or anything in between, we have millions of viewers a week, a month, a year, that you can directly target to the services that they desperately need that you can provide. Contact us at Detroit Snowstorm 68 at yahoo.com for Gold Standard advertising, and you can advertise directly to millions of viewers a week here at Michigan Snow Forecast Gold Standard and building. We did just have almost 500,000, 409,000 viewers yesterday. We've had 1.2 million views in the last 28 days, right? That's very, very impressive for this channel. And the wintertime season hasn't really even got underway with anything significant, just general weather that happens here. And you can see over the last 90 days, we've had a phenomenal and a record channel breaking 2.7 million views the last 90 days. And we're growing fast. We're at about 150 to 200,000 views today already. Growing fast.
Often without question.
We have 850 new followers in the past 38 hours. And you can see, look at that. 10,653. We've picked up 600 followers in the last 36 hours, and we've gotten about 700,000 views, and it's been phenomenal. And the channel is drastically expanding, so that is one of the reasons that we were a little bit late this weekend. You can see all the activity that we had. You can see this post, and it's gotten 38,000 views in 6 hours, and it's going to the moon. right? And these ones we put out yesterday. This one was 24 hours ago. It's gotten 193,000 views. And that's why if you want to advertise and you're a contractor in the great state of Michigan on here, contact me. You have millions of viewers that we can put your information here, and you can sponsor posts to get direct contact to people that live in Michigan for the services that you provide that they desperately need, especially in the winter. And you can see this one from 36 hours ago, 221,000. Like the channel, subscribe, my glorious glowing